There it is.
Okay, here we go. So let me just briefly say to anyone who may be watching this video later that we have completed Canto 4, although someone may have a few questions or comments about it today. But we're basically spending our day reading and discussing Canto 5, where we enter the environs of the Inferno proper. And with that, John?
Yeah, as you mentioned, 4, we were talking about Penthesilea, and I mentioned a vase painting, and I did track down an image of it, but I don't know how to share it with you. Maybe email it to you and you can put it on the screen.
You could just do the link and then I can either show it when we get to the discussion part of today or next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little curiosity. Okay, I'll just say
But I can
send you the link.
enable, if you want to experiment, John, I can enable sharing for you. And
Okay,
and you can try that. Let's do that. It's always a good idea to
okay.
encourage everybody to learn a little. So here's the share screen. That's what I want to do is I want to enable you to share. Make host. Participants. Share screen options. Okay, one participant can share at a time, multiple advanced sharing options. Who can share? Okay, I'm going to put all participants. Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? I'll do all participants again. So, John, if you go down to your menu at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Can you see it now?
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you
very
want
nice.
to give a little verbal description of what's going on here?
Yeah, this is not from the Iliad. Penthesilea is in one of the other later. There were a lot of accounts of the Trojan War, many of which are lost to us, and some we have in fragments. But she was an Amazon warrior, despite her modest dress hair. And here's Achilles killing her. And some people think that she's looking up at him admiringly and maybe falling in love with him at this moment. I don't know that I can get that out of this. I've certainly heard that, but
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of wishful thinking to me.
yeah, I can't see it. But anyway,
Okay.
so
Thank you very much.
that's all.
Okay. Well, then that's that. And then let me go to my
Oh, God. Oh. Oh, there's something stuck in front.
Okay. With that being said, let us go on and do the Italian reading of Canto 5. And Decio, if you'd be kind enough to take it away, and then John will read, and then Decio, you'll read again, and then I'll read, etc. Okay?
Let's start.
Please start.
Rupemmi l'altro sonno che la testa, un greve tuono, sì che io mi ricossi come persona che per forza desta.
Desi, You on Canto 5?
4.
Okay. If you'd be kind enough to go to Canto 5, we're going to
I
concentrate.
thought because we didn't read the Canto 5 in Italian.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, sorry,
So-
but we'll just go ahead and
Andiamo,
proceed.
andiamo al canto quinto, allora.
Mhm.
Così discesi del cerchio primaio giù nel secondo, che men lo cosingia e tanto più dolor che punge a guaio. Stavi minos orribilmente e ringia, esamina le colpe nell'entrata, giudica e manda secondo chi avviglia. Dico che quando l'anima malnata li vien dinanzi, tutta si confessa, e quel conoscitor delle peccata vede qual locco d'inferno da essa signesi con la coda tante volte, quantunque gradi vuol che giù si messa. Sempre dinanzi a lui ne stanno molte, vanno a vicenda ciascuna al giudizio, dicono e odono e poi son giù volte. E tu che vieni al doloroso spizio, disse Minos a me quando mi vede, lasciando l'atto di con tanto officio. Guarda com'entri e di cui tu ti fide, non ti inganni l'ampiezza dell'entrare, il duca mio a lui, perché pur gride non impedir lo suo fatale andare, vuolsi così colà dove si puote, ciò che si vuole e più non dimandare. Or incomincian le dolente notte a farmisi sentire, or son venuto là dove molto pianto mi percuote. Io veni in loco di ogni luce muto, che muggia come fa mar per tempesta, e da contrari venti è combattuto. La bufera infernal che mai non resta, mena gli spiriti con la sua rapina, voltando e per contendo li molesta. Quando giungono davanti alla ruina, quivi la strida, il compianto, il lamento, bestemmian quivi la virtù divina. Intesi chi ha così fatto tormento, enno danati e peccator carnali, che la region sommettono al talento. Next.
E come gli stornei ne portan l'ali, nel freddo tempo, a schiera larga e piena, così quel fiato, gli spiriti mali, di qua di là, di giù, di su li mena, nulla speranza li conforta mai, nonché di posa, ma di minor pena. E come gru van cantando l'orlai, facendo in aria di sé lunga riga, così video venir traendo guai, ambre portate dalla detta briga. Per chi dissi, maestro, chi son quelle, janti che l'aura nera si gastiga. La prima di coloro di cui novelli tu vuoi saper, mi disse quelle allotta, fu imperatrice di molte favelle, a vizio di lussuria e fu sirata, che libito felicito in sua legge, per tuore il biasmo in che era condotta. E lei Semiramis, di cui si legge che succedete a Nino e fu sua sposa, tenne la terra che Sudan corregge. L'altre colei che sancisse amorosa e rupe fede al cenere di Sicheo, poi Cleopatras lussuriosa. Elena vedi, per cui tanto reo, tempo si volse, e vedo grande chile, che con amore al fine combatteo. Next, please.
Vedi Paris, Tristano, e più di 1000 ombre mostron e nomino mi adito. Amor de nostra vita di partire. Porcia ch'io ebbe il mio dottore udito. Noma le donne antiche e cavalieri. Pieta mi giunse e fui quasi smarrito. La comincia, poeta, volontieri, parterie, a che due che insieme vanno e paiono, sì l'avento esser leggeri. Ed ella a me, vedrai a quando saranno più presso a noi, e tu allor li priega di quello amor che mena ed e verranno. Sì tosto come il vento a noi li piega, mossi la voce, a anime affannante, venite a noi parlar, s'altri noi niega. Quale colombe dai disio chiamate, con lauli alzate e ferme al dolce nido, vengon per leare, dal voler portate. Cotale uccier della schiera ove daido, a noi venendo, per l'are maligno. Sì forte fu la affettuoso grido al mal grazioso, benigno, che visitando vai per l'are perso. Noi che tinemo il mondo di sangue giorno, se fosse amico, il re dell'universo, noi pregheremo lui della tua pace. Poi, hai pietà del nostro mal perverso, di quel che udire e che parlar vi piace. Noi udiremo e parleremo a voi, mentre che il vento, come fa, ci tace. Siedi la terra dove nata fui, sulla marina dove il Po discende, per aver pace conseguaci sui. Amor, cae cor gentil ratto s'apprende, prese costui della bella persona che mi fu tolta. Era un modo ancor m'affende, amor, ca nullo amato, amar perdona. Mi prese del costui piacer sì forte, che, come vide, anco non m'abbandona. Sì.
Amor conduce noi ad una morte. Cain attende chi a vita si spense. Queste parole da lor ci fuor forte, quando io intesi quell'anima offense, chinà il viso e tanto il teni basso, finché il poeta mi dice che pensi. Quando risposi cominciai, o lasso, quanti dolci pensieri, quanto disio meno contoro al doloroso passo. Poi mi rivolsi a loro e parla io e cominciai. Francesca, i tuoi martiri a lacrimar me fanno tristo e pio, ma dimmi al tempo di dolci sospiri a che e come concedete amore che conosceste il dubbiosi desiri e quella a me. Nessun maggior dolore che il ricordarsi del tempo felice nella miseria che ciò sa il tuo dottore, ma sa conoscere la prima radice del nostro amor, tu che hai con tanto affetto, dirò come colui che piange dice. Noi leggevamo un giorno per diletto di Lancelotto come amor lo stringe, soli eravamo e senza alcun sospetto, per più fiatte gli occhi si sospinse quella lettura e scolorossi il viso, ma solo un punto fu quel che ci vinse. Quando leggemmo il disziato riso esser baciato da con tanto amante, questi che mai da me non fia diviso. La bocca mi baciò tutto tremante. Galeotto fu libro e chi lo scrisse quel giorno più non vi leggemmo avanti. Mentre che l'uno spirito questo disse, l'altro piangea, sì che di pietate io veni men così come io morisse e cadi come corpo morto cade.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Tessio. Okay, let's go to the translation. And let me take a quick look at the reading list here. There's that. Okay.
Before we launch in, could I just ask, is Dante's Italian as different from modern Italian as Chaucer's English, Middle English is from modern English? Or could an Italian today read Dante without too much difficulty? Read and understand without too much difficulty?
They can read it with some difficulty.
Okay.
Because at the time, Italy was many countries.
Yes.
Filled.
Yes.
And so different dialects.
Yes.
And they decide after the La Commedia, but in 19th century, they decided to use the Fiorentino, the language from Firenze, to be adopted as Italian. But there is some changes, like in English, you have the Shakespearean English changed, but your English is based on Shakespeare, most of it.
Right.
And didn't Dante wrote in Italian, which was unusual then. It was writing was in Latin, and there were many ways, many Italian dialects all over Italy. Excuse me. So he created the Italian. That's the original Italian of the Commedia.
Yes, and actually he's given credit for some by many people as actually creating Italian.
So it's the equivalent to Italian that as Luther's Bible is to German then? It's
I
kind
think
of a template of a language.
here's the, to me, here's the interesting part. The pronunciation is virtually the same as modern Italian.
Okay.
But the vocabulary, like when we've had native Italian speakers in the group, they freely admitted that the vocabulary is sometimes a struggle. And in Italian schools, Italian school children study Dante, but then they also have this modern Italian version of Dante. So they're kind of studying, this is my understanding, they're kind of studying Dante's Italian a little bit like a foreign language. But like I
Yeah.
say, the good news is that the pronunciation is pretty regular, as far as I know.
Yeah, in our case, our family, we are immigrants from third generation from Italy. And my mother, my parents used to talk Italian between them. So we learned this dialect from Veneto. Veneto is a region of Venice.
Okay.
So I have this difficulty also with Italian. I took a course of 5 years in Italian, and still today I have difficulty to understand very well because of my dialect.
Oh, okay. Okay. But I might be speaking out of turn here, but Decio, you were very precise.
Yeah,
Um,
I try to
so I think actually a lot of people would say that you probably know Italian really, really well, although there's a few maybe peculiarities about it, which to me
the
I would
grammar is very difficult.
say that again.
Grammar is really difficult.
Okay.
It's different, you said.
Difficult.
Difficult.
Oh, difficult.
Yeah, our language here in Brazil is Portuguese, but we learned Portuguese with the verbs, the conjugation, the grammar, everything. But the everyday speaking, we don't use all the verbs and the tenses, the correct tenses and the pronouns. And the Italian, they pronounce very perfectly the tenses of the verbs and the pronouns. I don't know if your daily English is the same. You don't speak regularly as in the grammar.
Oh yeah. Well,
we have this difficulty. Lawyers, they speak very well, and when we write, we speak better. We write better than we speak.
Oh,
Well, it's only recently that the idea cropped up that literature should reflect everyday language. It would have been not considered a virtue for, let's say, Cicero in his oratory to speak like people spoke on the street. It'd be looked down upon for that. And I think even writers like Chaucer, like Faulkner, the dialogue might reflect how people speak, but not the narrative. Or somebody like Toni Morrison more recently. So yeah, literature should be at a higher level, I think, than everyday speech. But that's my view.
Correct. Yeah.
speaking.
I would argue, but I think we should read the Inferno. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I would argue that too. I can't get the chat up on my screen, so where am I in the reading order?
You were actually after me.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are we ready to go to the English reading now? I guess we are. Okay. Thus I descended out of the first circle down to the second, that less space begirds, and so much greater dole that goads to wailing. There standeth Minos horribly and snarls, examines the transgressions at the entrance, judges and sends according as he girds him. I say, that when the spirit evil-born cometh before him, wholly it confesses, and this discriminator of transgressions seeth what place in hell is meet for it, girds himself with his tail as many times as grades he wishes it should be thrust down. And Mosier.
Meisner. Right?
Nice. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Okay, always before him many of them stand. They go by turns, each one unto the judgment. They speak and hear, and then are downward hurled. O thou that to this dolorous hostelry comest, said Minos to me, when he saw me, leaving the practice of so great an office. Look how thou enterest, and in whom thou trustest. Let not the portal's amplitude deceive thee. And unto him, my guide, why criest thou too? Do not impede his journey, fate ordained. It is so willed there where is power to do that which is willed, and ask no further question. And now begin the dolesome notes to grow, audible unto me. Now am I come, there where much lamentation strikes upon me. Next.
I came into a place mute of all light, which bellows as the sea does in a tempest, if by opposing winds 'tis combated. The infernal hurricane that never rests hurtles the spirits onward in its rapine, whirling them round, and smiting, it molests them. When they arrive before the precipice, there are the shrieks, the plaints, and the laments. There they blaspheme the puissance divine. I understood that unto such a torment the carnal malefactors were condemned, who reason subjugate to appetite. And as the wings of starlings bear them on, in the cold season in large band and full, so doth that blast the spirits maledict. It hither, thither, downward, upward drives them. No hope doth comfort them for evermore, not of repose, but even of lesser pain. Next, please.
And as the cranes go chanting forth their lays, making in air a long line of themselves, so saw I coming, uttering lamentations. Shadows borne onward by the aforesaid stress, whereupon said I, Master, who are these people whom the black air so castigates? The first of those of whom intelligence thou fain wouldst have. Then said he unto me, the Empress was of many language. To sensual vices she was so abandoned, that lustful she made licit in her law, to remove the blame to which she has been led. She is Semiramis, of whom we read that she succeeded Nimbus and was his spouse. She held the land which now the Sultan rules. The next is she who killed herself for love and broke fate with the ashes of sisters. Then Cleopatra's the voluptuous. Helen I saw, for whom so many ruthless seasons revolved, and saw the great Achilles who at the last hour combat with love. Paris I saw, Tristan, and more than 1,000 shades did he name and point out with his fingers, who love has separated from her life. Next, please.
After that, I had listened to my teacher, named dames of hell and cavaliers. Pity prevailed, and I was night bewildered. And I began, O poet, willingly speak. Would I to those who go together, and seem upon the wind to be so light, and he to me, thou it mark when they shall be nearer to us, and then do thou implore them by love which leadeth them, and they will come. Soon as the wind in our direction sways them, my voice uplift I, O ye weary souls, come speak to us, if no one interdicted. As turtle doves, called onward by desire, with open and steady wings to the sweet nest, fly through the air by their volition borne. So came they from the bend where Dido is, approaching us afterward the air malign. So strong was the affectionate appeal. O living creature, gracious and benignant, who visiting goest thou to the purple air, us we who have stained the world incarnate. If were the King of the universe our friend, we would pray unto him to give thee peace, since thou hast pity on our woe perverse. Next.
Whatever pleases you to hear or speak, we will hear, and we will speak about with you as long as the wind. Here, where we are, is silent. The place where I was born lies on the shore, where the river Po, with its attendant streams, descends to find its resting place. Love, quick to kindle in the gentle heart, seize this one for the beauty of my body, torn from me. How it happened still offends me. Love that excuses no one loved from loving seized me so strongly with delight in him that, as you see, he never leaves my side. Love led us straight to sudden death together. Kaina awaits the one who quenched our lives. These are the words that came from them to us. Next.
Hearing those wounded souls, I bent my brow downward, and thus bemused I let time pass, till the poet said at length, "What thinkest thou?" When I could answer, I began, "Alas, sweet thoughts how many, and desire how great, brought down these twain unto the dolorous pass." And then I turned to them. "Thy dreadful fate, Francesca, makes me weep. It so inspires pity," said I, "and grief compassionate. Tell me, in that time of sighing sweet desires, how and by what did love his power disclose, and grant you knowledge of your hidden fires?" Then she to me, "The bitterest woe of woes is to remember in our wretchedness old happy times, and this thy doctor knows. Yet, if so dear desire thy heart possess, to know that root of love which wrought our fall, I'll be as those who weep and who confess. One day, we read for pastime how enthralled Lord Lancelot lay to love, who loved the queen. We were alone, we thought no harm at all." Next, please.
Full many a time our eyes together drew that reading and drove the color from our faces. But one point only was it that o'ercame us, when as we read of the much longed for smile being by such a noble lover kissed, this one who ne'er from me shall be divided, kissed me upon the mouth, all palpitating. Galeotto was the book, and he who wrote it that day. No farther did we read therein. And all the while one spirit uttered this, the other one did weep, so that for pity I swooned away as if I had been dying, and fell even as a dead body falls. The end.
Well done.
So we are in the circle of luxury, luxurious. saint.
Love.
So he names all the great sinners from the past. And it's interesting case of Francesca da Rimini, Paulo. This is a famous romance. No, Francesca was married to someone, and he fell in love with his brother-in-law. So they were killed by the husband. So they went to the Inferno, and so Dante shows this. And this is a very many painters did this painting. There is lots of painting. Even the Louvre in Paris, there is a famous painting about this case of Francesca da Rimini Paolo.
Okay.
Rodin had it in his Gates of Hell.
Yeah, also, yeah.
But she was innocently deceived to begin with when Francesco came to make a bidding for his brother to marry her, and she thought he was bidding himself to marry her. The brother was malformed, and
Yes,
so
ugly, very ugly.
yeah, ugly and malformed. And anyway, she does fall in love with Francesca or Paolo, and then when the brother finds them together, he murders them. That's what I understand. And I understand that there's a lot of beauty in the type of love they found to begin with, but the sin is that they give into something that was forbidden. So there's the beauty of it, and then there's the unfortunate side that they should have.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, that it was illicit what they were doing.
And Dante's sympathy for them gives us sympathy for them.
Yeah.
Well, Dante is actually caught in a trap of his own making to a certain extent. And that is as a poet, as an earlier poet, he also, as shown by many of his poems, was in the kind of troubadour tradition. And the conceit in that tradition was that true love sweeps us off our feet, that we cannot resist it at all. And Dante had written a number of poems in that ilk. And now he is facing the newer reality, the new spiritual reality for him, that love and desire are definitely can be positive forces, but not to the extent that they should sweep us off our feet, that reason needs to stay in control and to steer the fires of love and desire. And this particular canto, right off the mark, he's dealing with this issue headlong, and as we will see as we parse this, he faints.
Yeah.
He hasn't quite learned the lesson yet. That's why he has so much compassion for Francesca and Paolo, but he's kind of caught in the argument, and he doesn't resolve it. He doesn't really resolve it in this canto, but he does confront it. So
yeah, he faints. I cade come corpo morto cade. And this is the most famous canto in the Commedia.
Really?
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
Well, yeah, it is extremely important because particularly in our modern day, I mean, what do we think? Oh my God, I fell in love with her at first sight. Love swept me off my feet. Love is a whirlwind. There's no cure for love, blah, blah, blah. All this being metaphorically or imaginistically shown by the wind that is blowing Paolo and Francesca and the other sinful lovers round and round and round. They have no stability. That love is just taking them. And with all that, I will go ahead and read a little bit of the first part.
Can I go back to Canto 4 before we discuss Canto 5?
I guess so.
Okay.
Okay, so in Canto 4, there's a castle, and so there are elect souls are in this very pleasant environment.
Mm-hmm.
But the souls that aren't in the environment are in a very hell-like environment. It really is unpleasant. It's dark. They never stop moving.
Because it's the limbo. The limbo is a better place.
Pardon me?
It's the
They're in
limbo.
limbo.
Castle, I think, is the limbo. The limbo is a better place.
Limbo, right, except for these elect souls. But these other souls aren't what do you call them? The deadly sin sinners. They only were not Christian. They didn't confess and get God's forgiveness
Get baptized.
before they died.
They didn't hear Christ.
They didn't know about God.
They didn't sin, just they were not baptized and
They were before Christ.
before Christ. No? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And going back to that and seeing this difference between those inside the castle who are also before Christ and those outside who are suffering, I feel like what was Dante telling us? And it's similar to the ambiguity with the lovers. How did he really feel about it? That's what comes to mind with me. The answer may not be doable, but that's what I wonder.
There is my understanding is there's gradations. So like the group with Aristotle, that enter the castle, they're a higher grade in limbo, but limbo still, compared to everything else that we encounter in the Inferno, is a well-lit place and relatively.
Oh, I thought it was dark there.
No, the darkness is when they're passing out of limbo, moving down to the river where Minos is taking the true sinners and asking them what they were there for, and then tells them what level of hell to go to by his tail. He's got this huge long tail that he wraps around him.
But
so
they're wandering and wandering and wandering. Is it they that have the banner with nothing on it?
That is that place before.
Very outside. Yeah.
That's the place
before it.
So
I'm wondering about these differences.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's worth going back to, but I feel like I don't have a handle on it.
Okay, well, like I say, first of all, we're not going to solve all of the issues, even in this reading. We're just going to.
You know what? Now that I've asked the question and we're not going to solve it, I'm going to read the first 4 cantos again.
Yeah, please do. And what you will discover is that in that first area where there's a banner and all that, these are the people who weren't sinners. They weren't big sinners and they weren't positive either. They were very milquetoasty, as we would say. And that place is rather dark. I mean, to chase a banner and to have insects coming and biting your faces until you bleed, that's all stuff. And then we move from there we start seeing more light, and we move into limbo. And limbo is basically a pleasant garden, if you will. And based upon what's said about the philosophers, there is kind of a special limbo where Aristotle and his group hang out, and there's a lower gradation limbo, which is not as good as being in the castle, but still pretty good. But what all these people suffer from for eternity is the knowledge that they could have gone to heaven if they had only been baptized or if they had heard of Christ. That's their suffer. It's a kind of a, if you'll forgive me, a kind of a low level anxiety and
Okay.
existential dread. Then we move out of
The,
there.
ar- the area that you're talking about, Dee, they're called the opportunist. Those souls who in life were neither for good nor evil, but only for themselves. Mixed with them are those outcasts who took no sides in the rebellion of the angels. They are neither in hell nor out of it, eternally unclassified. They race round and round, pursuing a wavering banner that runs forever before them through the dirty air. And as they run, they are pursued by swarms of wasps and hornets who sting them and produce a constant flow of blood and putrid matter which trickles down the bodies of the sinners and is feasted upon by loathsome worms and maggots who coat the ground.
Yeah, that's
So
that's them.
where exactly are you with those ones?
This is
Canto 3, right?
Oh, Canto.
yes.
Canto 3.
Yeah.
So that's dark. Then we move into Canto 4, which is light and very pleasant, except for the fact that they're not in heaven and never will be. And within that, my understanding is there's kind of gradations. Aristotle and basically the other Greek philosophers get this special place. Philosophers and poets get this special place, and then there's others like Saladin and that whole long list of people who are still in a good condition, but it's kind of like you go to a 5-star hotel and some people get to stay in the penthouse and some people stay on the other floors. Not bad, but not as good as being in the penthouse. But that's a well-lighted place. And then we move out of there towards the river. It becomes immediately dark.
Dark.
Yeah, and I forget why. Yeah, so they go into the first the first level of Inferno proper, which is where the lovers are. And this is actually an extremely important canto. This because it points out Dante's doing something very unusual here. And it's very sophisticated. Because in the normal portrayals of lovers in hell or the lustful in hell, it's really serious stuff. The other forms of hell, have demons attacking the genitals and all this stuff, and Dante's not having any of that. And he's basically going to lead us to a place where he's saying, sex and love are not in themselves bad. In fact, they're very good. In fact, you have to have desire and love in order to make progress towards heaven. But it can't be the troubadour type. It can't be the love that sweeps reason aside and blows you about in the wind like Francesca and Paolo. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and read. Where am I going to read? Probably the first 9 lines, and then we'll stop for a second. Thus I descended out of the first circle down to the second that less space begirds. and so much greater dole that goes to wailing. There standeth Minos horribly, and snarls, examines the transgressions at the entrance, judges, and sends according as he girds him. I say that when the spirit evil born cometh before him, wholly it confesses, and this transgressor and this discriminator of transgressions seeth what place in hell is meet for it, girds himself with his tail as many times as grades he wishes it should be thrust down. I stop there. It's interesting. This is kind of like St. Peter at the gate, only this is Minos at the gate. John, you need to turn on your microphone. I think you're.
Yeah, I had dogs a few minutes ago. This is right out of Virgil. Virgil puts him in a similar role in the underworld, although it's not described any this dramatically. There's no tale or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just mentioned as the judge.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I think it's interesting. He's not even judging. He's asking people come up and he says, "What are you in for?"
That's true. He's just a bureaucrat.
He's just a bureaucrat, right? He asks the question, "Well, I'm in here because I murdered somebody." And then his tail goes, and he says, "Okay, you go down to level 7 or whatever." What are you in for? Well, my boyfriend and I had illicit sex and an affair on the side, and we let lust overcome our reason. Boop, okay, next door, going to the second level there. We got a room for you.
So how did Dido know to say that it was lust and not suicide that was her sin? I think Dante doesn't.
He doesn't, yeah.
Explain that.
Well,
I think he's pulling a very subtle trick on us then. And I think the subtle trick is that he's forcing us to figure it out. Just like you said, how does Dido know, blah, blah, blah? Well, I think we'll find that he's given us enough information to figure out.
So we see Dido later in contrast with another character who did further down, who did commit suicide. We can contrast the two.
Yeah, this is very, for those of you who are Joyce fans like myself, this is very, very much what Joyce does. Joyce rarely ever tells us anything completely, but he gives us enough information that we can make educated guesses at it. So for example, at the end of this particular canto, a question which, I don't know if I would actually come up with it if I hadn't been reading some side literature, but, the question comes up is, why is Dante so sympathetic to Francesca and Paolo? And why does Dante faint at the end of this canto?
But Dido was married to Sicheo in where today is Lebanon, and she moved to Carthago, and then Aeneas arrived there, and she fell in love with him. He stayed with her some time, and then he left to the entrance of the Tiger River, where is Rome. So he abandoned her, and so she committed suicide. But I think she is in in this circle because of the love, the love scene. she committed, not
Yeah.
for the suicide.
Right.
I can't remember where Aeneas is. I think he's
He's in limbo.
is he in limbo? Yeah.
Neos is in limbo.
Right. And I'm restraining myself, but there is a very specific reason why Dido is in the second circle, the circle of the lustful lovers.
Yeah.
I assume it's because she wasn't faithful to her husband. Who
Yeah,
was murdered.
Sicheo is mentioned here. Sicheo.
Yeah. No.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Possibility?
I will say, not really.
No. Okay.
That's certainly a temptation as an explanation, but that, as we will find out, even with Francesca and Paolo, they're not really there because they were unfaithful.
Okay.
There's a more subtle reason why they're there.
Maybe.
Yeah, why she's to blame.
Incontinence.
Why she's
Incontinence that they can't.
sorry,
Sorry. Incontinence because they can't control their emotions.
but
Or
why
is
she
it
that
that
they
You're very close. You're
Sorry,
very
Didi.
close there. Exactly.
Am I very
Why?
close?
my
No, we're
turn.
really close.
Why
Your turn.
she's to blame, and Aeneas isn't. He can. It's her fault. That's how it seems. Why she's placed where she is, and he gets to be in purgatory.
Okay, well, I will say that actually it's not because it's because she fell back into the thing that love conquers all, including reason and logic and propriety.
Yeah, but all they committed sins was a question of love. Semiramis was she treated the husband. Cleopatra has an affair with Mark Antony and Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
Ellen had a problem with he was the Menelaus' wife, so she was raped by Paris and so on. So all
Yeah, right. No, there is a logic to why they're all there. I'm just saying that it's not, my understanding of it at this particular point is it's not quite as obvious as
I have a theory.
we would think.
In the other cases, the women were as victim as the men, but with Dido, she was the seductress. She was the one who kind of was not a victim of like, I mean, her husband was killed, but she was like the initiator, she got Aeneas into this pickle.
Okay,
I
she had
think that
agency.
was the motivation.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So, so Dido and Aeneas had an affair.
Yes.
Was Dido's current husband alive at that point?
I thought he had been killed.
No. He'd been murdered.
So she was a widower. At
Yeah,
least
she-
at that time.
Widow, yeah.
Okay, when they had their affair.
Mhm.
She had sworn an oath that she would never take another husband or be involved with another man. And so obviously she broke that oath.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a different theory, the bond theory.
Well, I think particularly in Dante's time, but probably up through about the middle of the 20th century, that would be pretty much the view of it that Dido was leading Aeneas astray. Modern readers of the Aeneid tend to have more sympathy for Dido. She's a queen. She has no heir. She was young. She was under tremendous duress when she made that vow.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Think about loss. It's the kind of thing
Mhm.
people say. I'll never go to another concert because I can't go there without. We enjoyed so many concerts together.
Yes,
Whatever.
I can never do this or that or the other or blah, blah, blah.
And then time goes by and we do. So I think if we're looking at what Virgil wrote, she's a pretty sympathetic figure, but the way she's been interpreted through much of the last 2 millennia is pretty much what Didi described.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And where's John? Where's Carthage?
That's
North Africa.
yeah,
Part of
I think it's
Africa.
Tunisia
North
now.
Africa.
Yeah.
Northern Africa.
One at a time, please.
Mhm.
In Tunisia, north of Africa.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
just across from Sicily.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Hannibal was from.
You have the Punic Wars
Yeah.
against the Romans.
And
But
I'm
also-
reading
Mhm.
Yeah.
the Confession of St. Augustine, and he was in Northern Africa.
Yeah,
That's-
close by.
Yeah.
I think it's the same city or close by. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was from, my memory is he was from Carthage.
Ipona.
Hippo. Wasn't it Hippo?
Ipona.
Epona?
Yeah.
Okay.
Close by.
Let me just mention, so look at the difference. We have Dido and Aeneas. Aeneas goes on and founds Rome, right?
Right.
Okay, and Dido kills herself.
Mm.
Yeah.
So in terms of the relationship between desire and reason, which is more reasonable? Which is the more reasonable action?
Like
But
he was
doesn't Dido die of grief? I mean, she so
She-
mourns that Aeneas has left her.
Yes,
Yeah, she commits suicide. She
Yeah.
committed suicide then.
right.
But he didn't want to leave her, and he was doing what like he felt was his duty, his mission.
Mhm.
I think that's part of Dante's story.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, it's the relationship between love, desire, and reason that's really the important theme in this canto, and will remain an important theme throughout the rest of the poem. That's why I say this is kind of a really important canto. Although on the surface it seems pretty simple. Oh, well, they had illicit sex and they're in hell because of that. Which on some level is true, but more true is the relationship between their desire and reason and the true meaning of love.
And I think Dante was that Rome, that Catholicism was on the way of saving the world, of saving civilization. I think he probably saw it that way, that her sin was worse than Aeneas, because Aeneas was fulfilling that, being part of the founding of Rome, that story.
Yeah.
She's not part of that, though, is she?
No, not she, but
But he
Aeneas.
goes off. When he leaves
Yeah.
her, that's where he goes.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other thing is that I was reading a bit of Sayers, and another aspect of the story is that with Paolo and Francesca, it's an example of that the punishment is related to the sin. In other words, Paolo and Francesca are forever joined in their punishment. They float together, or
They have company.
they're together. They're
Yeah.
together.
Being blown about by the wind.
Together.
Yeah.
They have no stability because they have
It's the only couple in this circle.
Mhm.
Mhm. But the whole wind, what's that called? The contrapasso, the idea that the
Contrapasso, yeah.
the
Punishment and the sin match.
And in this
Mhm.
case, as we will find out as we read further into this, Francesca is doing the classic thing, which we'll just see over and over in each level of hell, which was, it wasn't me, it was outside forces
Mhm.
that overcame me. And that's what this wind is all about.
Mm.
The idea that,
And they were reading the book about the legend of King Arthur, no? The Guinevere.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah,
Another,
King Arthur, yeah, and Lancelot and Guinevere.
Let's
Seduced
hope
by literature.
the book banners don't get a hold of this, because it'll be one more weapon in their arsenal.
Yes.
You see what reading does to you?
You can't read the Divine Comedy.
I mean,
I think Dave's trying to say something. Dave, come in.
thank you. I was just saying that they were seduced by literature, and it's definitely ironic that you have a writer talking about this power, which contributes to their consignment to the Inferno. That they were reading. I think it was Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere, and then there was another book too, or is that the same book?
I think it's a different author,
Yeah, yeah.
Leto or something like that. I think it's like a version of it.
Right. At least it speaks to the power of literature, I suppose.
Be careful. Be careful what you read.
Yeah.
It's deliciously ironic because, of course, Dante is confronting his earlier self
Yes.
when
Yeah.
he was a love poet. And he wrote many poems about being overcome by love.
Yes.
And that's why,
Exactly.
some explanations, that's why he faints here. It's a little too close to home.
Yeah.
And he hasn't made the change. He hasn't realized that this Dante, the character, has not realized that this Francesca and Paolo are speaking to him directly and accusing him, one, as a person who's been infatuated with this type of love, the love that sweeps us away. And then they're confronting him with Dante, the troubadourian poet, who would have been in the position of the guy who wrote Lancelot and Guinevere.
Yeah, good point.
The other thing I was going to say is back to Dido. I always had a soft spot for since high school, really, because she got an arrow, didn't she? I mean, there were outside forces really working on her. Is that not correct? Because if I remember the Aeneid, the description of the passion that overcame her after she was struck by Cupid's arrow was quite compelling.
Yeah,
Is that everybody else's remembrance?
yeah, it was actually more direct than that. Venus,
Right.
who is
Aeneas's mother. Yeah.
Substituted Cupid for Aeneas's son, Ascanius.
Yes.
And he sat on her lap and so forth. But now, if you think about it, here's a queen without an heir and a woman without a child. And here comes this, Cupid in the form of child sitting on her lap and so forth. So, you know, there's a whole lot of reason to be sympathetic to Dido.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Canto,
Dante would say be sympathetic, but realize that the actions were actually how do I say it? She had free will.
Mhm.
Or
That
not.
none of the excuses that a Dido uses, or that a Francesca uses, or that a Paolo uses, they are soft arguments. They are influences, uh, but that because of the concepts of true love, free will, and justice, it doesn't excuse their actions. It just
But the Greek, in the Greek mythology, the gods you don't have free will. You do what they make you do.
right.
So
And Dante is saying, sorry, that's not a get out of jail card.
yeah, he rejects that mythology.
Or they nudge you to do what you would do anyway, given
But
your
there, I
personality.
know. Yeah, in the mythology, the gods just they make you a tree who was made into a tree, Diana or somebody.
Yeah.
You're stuck. They are in charge. There is no free will, I don't think.
And the Christian philosophy is, as if you remember in our reading of Paradiso, the Christian view, as Dante expresses it, is yes, there are influences, there are pressures, but you have free will.
But I think he's
you
also
have-
letting us, sorry,
and you have reason.
but I think he's letting us consider the other possibility, because he never makes it a firm, this is it. I mean, he does put Dido in this part of the Inferno, but I think he allows us to think about the alternative possibility. No?
Dante also wrote Convivio and also the Vita Nuova.
Right.
Is related to the earthly love, the impossible love he had from Beatrice. So it's more an ideal thing. Possible dream.
And those were earlier works. I mean, that's why I say we're confronting right away. I mean, this is pretty early into a major work, and we're in Canto 5. So relatively right away, we can say that Dante is not letting himself off the hook.
No, not at all. That's what he's teaching us about his relationship with Beatrice. Just what you just said.
And in terms of his oeuvre, how his relationship with Beatrice changed from, let's say, the Convivio or the Vita Nuova into the Commedia.
Right, how he realized this is
this is always the impossible love. Earthly love.
Yeah. But of course, it sounds good.
Well, it's spiritual love.
Yeah, do you know this book by Barbara Reynolds?
Who is that by?
Barbara Reynolds.
Oh, Barbara Reynolds.
Oh, Barbara Reynolds, yeah.
Very good.
Does she talk about that, I imagine?
Yes.
Okay. So it's actually getting fairly late. It's time flies when you have fun. Anyway,
can I say something, Duncan, there, please?
Oh,
I was looking back at my notes from the first time that we read this, and I have here, which probably makes sense, outside the wall of this, which happens down a bit. We have lustful, which is this ring. Then we have the gluttonous. Then we have the avaricious and the prodigal, and the wrathful and sullen. And all of these are sins of incontinence, where they are unable to control their passions or desires for earthly goods. So in these ones, he's dealing with that, which makes a lot of sense. And that's why these people are here. There's none of them controlled.
Yeah.
They're earthly desires.
That's
it's the taking of a natural desire and pushing it to an extreme. And in this
But
case,
it's earthly desires. That's important as opposed to spiritual. It's a separate kind of desire.
well, let me push back a little bit because it is a spiritual problem. And and what I mean by that is, Dante is saying desire is absolutely necessary and to make spiritual progress, but it has to be the right kind of desire. Well, what's the right kind of desire? The right kind of desire is the desire which is guided by reason or the intellect. And in this case, with the excuses that Francesca is making, saying, well, I was overcome. That the love was so strong that it swept me away, hence the wind blowing them around. It swept me away. It overcame me.
Yeah, so it's separate from fleshly desire. It's something else.
The feelings are bigger than the rational.
Say that again, DCO.
The feelings, the emotional is stronger than the rational.
Yes.
Was the case.
Oh. Good. I think we've done some good work today.
If we, I think you're right, Dee Dee, because if we can get some grasp of this point this early in this reading, we will see that it is repeated over and over and over.
And how it's
again.
worked into the story. Yeah.
Even going into the Paradiso, where we have this whole discussion of the planets and being born with propensities and influences.
Well, this is interesting because St. Augustine has a lot to say about that. Maybe I'll try to find something to bring next for when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll have many opportunities to talk about the same thing, because it is, in a certain sense, it's one of the major themes of the book. What is desire? What is right desire? What is love? And what is justice? So in these earlier chapters, we will see Dante over and over again being sympathetic or passing out and all this sort of thing. This is Dante, the character, the immature character. And then as we go on in the poem, we'll see that he's less susceptible to this because he understands.
He's learning
What free will is. He's as we will learn, what is free will? What does this mean for us? What is justice and what is desire? What is right desire? Which, as a sometimes Buddhist, I find a really interesting concept, the idea of right desire. Because in traditional Buddhism, it's all desire leads to suffering. And Dante, even there, to my mind, at this time, is saying, if you have the right kind of desire, it's how you make progress. It's how you develop a true relationship, a spiritual relationship to the world.
Is a evolution of his personality, of his character, like Joyce in the portrait. He was young, and Ulysses is more mature, so it's a gradual change in his personality. We will follow this around through the book.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and read one more section. Whoever's the reader after me,
I
which I
just want to say that was Beatrice's objective in bringing him into the underworld. What
Mm.
you just said, Decia. Sorry.
So, Anne, would you like to read a little bit of a section and we'll talk about it, and then we'll wrap up the day.
I don't know where you're at this point.
I think that I am at, you would start with verse 13, always before him, many of them stand.
Okay, okay, I'm going to read from the Sayers translation because I had been using the Dartmouth online version for the reading today.
Okay.
But I'll read Sayers. Okay, before him stands a throng continual. Each comes in turn to abide the fell arraign. They speak, they hear, their world down one and all. Ho, thou that comest to the house of pain, cried Minos when he saw me, the appliance of his dread powers suspending. Think again, how thou dost go, in whom is thy reliance. Be not deceived by the wide open door. Then said my guide, wherefore this loud defiance? Hinder not thou his fated way. Be sure hindrance is vain. Thus it is willed, where will and power are one. Enough. Ask now no more.
So
And that is that it?
well,
Yeah.
I just have a thought about this, that Minos is saying to Dante, don't trust your guide. He's misleading you. That's what I think that says. And then Virgil contradicts Minos.
Somebody else
Actually he's saying don't, he's talking about the door.
Yeah, look how thou enterest and in whom thou trustest. Let not the portal's amplitude deceive thee. In other words, he's misleading you. I think that's what Minos is saying to Dante. He's warning him. And then Virgil simmers down Minos.
I have it as Virgil telling Minos to let them proceed.
No, that's
And-
definitely Minos talking.
Yeah,
Kind of
and
said Minos
19
to me.
19 through 21 is Minos, and then Virgil starts on 22. So Minos is basically trying to block them from entering in lines 19
Yeah.
through 1. So
Mhm.
what you guys doing here? Particularly you meat puppet there. You're not supposed to be there. And then in 22 to 24, Virgil explains.
Yeah, right. But doesn't Virgil say line 21, then said my guide, wherefore this loud defiance? Hinder not thou this fated way, be sure.
Yeah, the line is, you say, why is this loud defiance? And Longfellow's got, why criest thou too? And then do not impede his journey. So he's telling Minos he's wrong.
Okay.
Ask no further question. What is your line? 30, 26 or 27. That which is willed, and ask no further question. And
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Dee
Okay.
Dee, I'm reading out of Sayers now. Now the sounds of grief begin to fill my ear. I come where cries of anguish smite my shrinking sense, and lamentation shrill, a place made dumb of every glimmer of light, which bellow like tempestuous ocean burling in the batter of a two-way wind, the winds buffet and fight.
You're beyond. You're way ahead.
Those are lines 30.
Start on 22, 21.
Hinder not thou his fated way, be sure hindrances vain. Thus it is willed where will and power are one. Enough. Ask now no more.
That's what I was thinking about. Virgil telling Minos that this is will.
Yeah.
Minos,
right.
listen, you doorkeeper bureaucrat. I'm a higher power. I've been authorized by a higher power.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
right.
understand why you are saying what you're saying, but basically you got to get out of the way because
That to Minos, shut your mind, shut your mouths.
Yeah.
Just
These
an
two
underling.
lines,
yeah.
th-
I mean,
these
really,
two lines are,
we should have some sympathy for Mike. He's been doing this for a long, long time, and he's never encountered this situation before. So,
So this is the part of it's fun, this kind of passage, this kind of drama.
it's fun to frame it. It's fun to put it in its own kind of time and experience. And you know, like with Minos, I mean, how many, I can't even count it, millions of years, tens of thousands of years has he been standing there as a standard bureaucrat, just saying, okay, what did you do? What are you here for? Up the tail, boop, okay, go down to level 7. And suddenly there's these two somethings in front of him, one which is still a meat puppet, Dante, and then this other spirit he's never seen. He's completely, he didn't know what to do with it.
He just gives in, gets quiet.
I must go.
Yeah, it's fun for all of us.
See you next week. Okay. I'm sorry, I have to run an errand.
Hey,
Yeah,
let's take a walk soon.
Okay, I'll call you. I've got to.
Didi, would you be kind enough to mark where we are? That
I will.
we're,
I'm writing the date down so I don't forget where I am.
okay. Any last minute comments by anyone before I click the magic button?
No. What line did we finish, please?
I think we finished on line 24.
Yeah.
Virgil
20, yeah, 24, 25. That which is will ask no further question. That's
Thank
where.
you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Is there reading tomorrow? Is there reading tomorrow? Ulysses.
Yes.
Ulysses, yes.
Yeah.
So there's actually two Ulysses readings tomorrow. One on Facebook, and then I'm going to send out. And then I'm going to send out a thing for a Venice Ulysses in the evening. So you can have as much Ulysses as you want.
I love to do that all too. I need a servant.
Come and join our. What time is the American time for Ulysses? Duncan.
That Decio's time is 4:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Norris think it's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Okay.
for the remember, there's two. We're talking about the Facebook one happens at 4 in the afternoon your time. The evening one starts at, what is it, 10 o'clock for you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
See you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay.